So it's like, if you have a strong mission that clearly defines what your company is on this earth to do, what is the driving force that will not only continue propelling your team forward, but attract the right people to you, and the right people being your staff, but also your customers. And I think when you are clear on that mission, it makes it a lot easier to attract people who that mission sets their soul on fire. And if it sets their soul on fire, you don't have to externally motivate. If you have an inspiring purpose, it takes away the need for a lot of external motivation.
Watching, we often say here on the Unscripted Authentic Leadership podcast, sometimes you just have to start. You may not have everything together perfectly. You may not have the business plan all together, but if you're waiting to have everything perfect, you'll never start. So we definitely want to dig more into your story and how you expanded from one location to, as you said, now you're at 3 locations. But let's start with the developmental leadership piece. I know that's something that's important to you and a core value here, and that's something I think that will be pertinent and then that will help our unscripted audience. Can you talk to us about more about how you develop leaders within your company?
Yeah, I think it morphs, just like you said. The reason why people start a business is all different, but I think sometimes we get started simply because it's survival or because it's, just something to do. And so I think developing leaders kind of started that way for me as well. Meaning I knew that the only way for me to expand financially with the business was to expand geographically. My first store was in Northern Maine, which the opportunity is pretty limited. And then when our Canadian business dropped out in 2014, when the dollar changed and all of those things. So we knew we had to expand geographically. In order for that to happen, I had to duplicate myself. I had to create leaders and people who could do what I was doing in all the different locations. And so I guess it was born out of necessity. Granted, I've always been passionate about it. As time has gone on though, I think developing leaders is not, it's not the means to just a business end. For me, that's actually the purpose. That's the focus now. I literally exist to build leaders, and the business is now the vehicle to do that. So it's kind of shifted. It's like flipped on its head essentially over time.
Wow, that's good. I think that's important, because I think so many times we can focus on, I'm just in here to make money. I'm just here to feed my family. And if you focus on what the core is, and it's all about developing relationships and developing leaders that will develop other leaders, I think that'll propel us in every aspect, and especially those that are in leadership, whatever context that is, and to find what your core purpose and mission is. Because of what you just said, I think that's so good. Now that you find your mission, everything else will fall into place.
Absolutely. And I feel like leadership, small business, entrepreneurship, all of these things take a certain toll because, it's not necessarily the easiest clear-cut route for sure.
Sure.
And I think you can only do that so long and, stay energized if your purpose is money, or if your purpose is, just a superficial thing. I think until you make a connection with a deeper purpose and a deeper mission, it's pretty hard to recharge. It's pretty hard to find satisfaction or, reward in those things. So I think, when you focus on developing leaders, but not just even stopping there, I have a leadership team. I have 6 managers who run our different stores, but then developing out, well, for us, all of our other positions are essentially stylists. Because we're in the attire industry, but developing all of them as well, and helping each person, even if they've been in the job 2 months, that they know that their role is to be a leader. And whether, they manage people in our company or not, they are leading the people who walk into the stores. They are leading those experiences. And so every single person, we like to drill into everyone's mind, like, if you are in this company, you are a leader. And so you have to proactively be involved in what that means.
That's so good.
That's really good. So how do you go about then, if you dive into that just a little bit, how do you get into the newest person is a leader? And then, but also like, how do you get them to like take ownership over like seeking that knowledge, right? That's so hard to do. Sometimes when someone's new, they're just sort of in that sort of that lull spot of maybe it's almost the difference between the person who is proactively getting extra knowledge or proactively watching other people or learning new skills within the job versus the person who you say, hey, can you go and straighten this area up? And when they do, they stop and they wait until you tell them to do something else, right? You got both kinds of people versus the other one who's like, all right, what can I do next? Or what can I learn next? Hopefully I'm making sense here, but how do you get that newest person to take that leadership like that?
That buy-in, I think, is the word you're looking for there. And I think if you ask any leader or any business owner, the thing that they want of their team members the most is buy-in, right? You know, you want somebody who's in it. And I think for me personally, I found that's a lot easier if I hire it than if I try to instill it after the fact. And so step one, if you will, in my mind is bringing the right kinds of people into the organization from the get-go. And so how do you do that? I think, like John, like you just mentioned, for me, it evolves around mission. So it's like, if you have a strong mission that clearly defines what your company is on this earth to do, what is the driving force that will not only continue propelling your team forward, but attract the right people to you, and the right people being your staff, but also your customers. And I think when you are clear on that mission, it makes it a lot easier to attract people who that mission sets their soul on fire. And if it sets their soul on fire, you don't have to externally motivate. If you have an inspiring purpose, it takes away the need for a lot of external motivation. So I think that, for me, I tried the hard way for years, as a leader, you continue to try to motivate, but you're pushing, right? And I think when you focus on what are we here to do, what's the bigger purpose, you're inspiring and you're pulling people forward and you're leading from the front and you're giving them a cause they can get excited about and get passionate about. And then when they do the mundane thing, like the cleaning the toilets or whatever it is, the little jobs, it's like, well, no, you're not. Your purpose in doing that is not just to get squeaky clean bathrooms. Your purpose in doing that is to achieve the bigger mission.